Hey everybody, here's an agronomy update for Southern Idaho the week of April 15th. As far as what's going on in the field, we got people continuing to plant potatoes, sugar beets, spring grain, and we even have folks starting to plant corn in Western Idaho, Treasure Valley, some of those warmer areas. Where I live in Rupert, people are in the field, things are moving, potatoes are growing in the ground. We got sugar beets in the ground, we've got spring grain in the ground. And we're getting fired up with our irrigation systems now that we have ditch water coming online and things are moving along pretty well. Here's a couple of the questions that I'm getting this week from both agronomists and producers alike. I wrote these down and I thought I'd go over them today with you. So number one, the first question has to do with grain. And I've been getting a lot of questions about frost and cold weather in general and grain spray timing and what they can look at as far as dealing with it. And here's the thing you need to remember about grain sprays, and specifically cold weather and grain sprays. You want a plant that's growing healthy, both from a weed standpoint and your crop standpoint. Because if the crop's healthy, it can withstand the herbicides you're putting on to kill the weeds. And if the weeds are healthy, they'll actually take the herbicides in better, and those herbicides will give you a better control when the weather's good. Now, what you have to watch out for specifically is frost at the time of application, especially if you're using a grass selective herbicide. So like in wheat, if you're using a product like Open Sky, in barley, you might be using a product like Resivant. What I like to see as a general rule of thumb is 1 day ahead of the application to be frost-free, the day of the application to be frost-free, and the day after the application to be frost-free, just as kind of a general rule of thumb. Next question I'm getting is just herbicide applications and options in general in grain. Keep in mind that if it's winter grain, sometimes you can have more pressure from some of the weeds like cheatgrass and mustards. So specifically in wheat, as far as some of the products you might choose to apply, from my portfolio, for my company that I represent, we've got a product called Open Sky that's registered in wheat that controls both controls cheatgrass and also controls broadleaves like mustards and other broadleaves as well. So you need to think about that. You can reach out to me with questions. In sugar beets, some of the issues we've been seeing is that we have had spotty frost. And so while we have sugar beets in the ground that have been there for maybe a week or 10 days, in some cases more, some cases less, you want to be really aggressive about scouting for frost damage. And it's very specific because temperatures in one area might be way different than temperatures 10 miles away. And the crop stage in one area might be way different than the field 10 miles away as well. Both of those can really affect what you're looking at versus what your neighbor might be looking at, or what your other farm or field might be looking like as far as dealing with frost injury. So be really diligent with your scouting for frost. And then in potatoes, a lot of questions coming in on tank mix compatibility with in-furrow products, crop protection products we're using. So I get a lot of calls this time of year about using Vidate CLV in-furrow on potatoes, specifically for heavy nematode situations. And I will tell you that in almost all cases, Vidate is compatible with other fungicides, with other insecticides, and with a lot of the different nutrients you might put in that are kind of considered pop-up fertilizers. But you want to do a jar test to make sure, or reach out to me and ask me, and I can maybe follow up and contact you about what your needs are specifically on your farm. The good news is that water is the great equalizer. The more water you tend to have in a mix, the more compatible it is. And the quicker you can get that mix out, the better in most situations. So those are kind of the crop specific things. If you have anything that you're seeing you want to ask me about, feel free. If you got a comment, feel free to make a comment too. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.